Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. If you've been following my channel, you know that I've been chasing down a hesitation issue on my car. I did fix that. I posted up another video. It was actually low transmission fluid. But one of the things I was going to try while I was chasing down that hesitation was to change out the solenoid valve that controls your boost. So I actually got a new solenoid here. That's a brand new Pureberg boost control solenoid, so it's OEM quality. And what I want to try is testing this just to see how well it holds vacuum. And I'm going to compare it to the solenoids that are on the car, because even though they're still working, maybe they're about to fail or they're degraded. And this would be a good video to help you test the condition of the solenoids that are on your car potentially. So I bought this vacuum pump kit and brake bleeder kit. It was like 20 something bucks from Harbor Freight, but it would be a good way to apply vacuum to this and to see how it holds. Let's get this opened up. So this is a vacuum kit here that if you were to cap off, you can create some vacuum. Let's go inside here and see if we have the appropriate fittings. So I believe I need to get some vacuum line to adapt the sizing, which I will do. Actually, it seems to come with what's needed. Alright, so now what we want to do is apply vacuum and monitor this gauge. Right now it shouldn't build any vacuum, but if I put my finger on top of this, you can see it slowly bleeds off. I believe that's normal, but let's try it the other way. So it won't build vacuum that way. Only, I guess, if the solenoid is activated will this side become the vacuum. So if we really push it, it'll slowly bleed off vacuum. They're not really designed to hold continuous vacuum because it's I believe it's a pulse width modulated signal that actually powers these pins and causes it to adjust your boost pressure. It takes stored vacuum in your vacuum canisters and uses that to, via the ECU control, pulse width modulate this. Basically keep applying a signal and taking it away to control the exact boost that your wastegates will experience. But if anything, this is an indication of seal health in here, even just getting it to go to around, see if you can target around 25 inches of mercury and you can get an idea of how it holds. It's a slow bleed off. I'm going to try applying some power to this to see what kind of difference it makes. So for testing purposes, I can use this 9-volt battery and just tap it here. Nothing that way. And let's see if that makes any difference. They're not contacting each other, which is good. With that engaged, I can't get past 25. Or 20 actually. I'm not sure if this is enough power. Alright, so I looked it up and there's not really a really good definitive test to just put vacuum on one side of it. From what I've heard, if they fail and you apply vacuum and you're not even able to build up any vacuum, then, you know, you probably have a code for like a 30FF code, but that would be a way to use a vacuum gauge. But by then, you know, things would be pretty far along in terms of being problematic. You really have to have the car running and to check the actual vacuum at the actual solenoid to see if it's able to target appropriate vacuum at idle. That's a good indication. And beyond that, you can try blowing through it too. A stock solenoid may not allow you to blow anything through if it's failed, as it should when it's healthy. I just tried that on the new one and I could blow right through the port. So that's another way to, like, on a very basic level, test a solenoid. But this is the proper way to do it. So basically, I've teed into I've already upgraded my vacuum line and I had some leftover. But this is the vacuum line that runs down to your wastegate. And normally this piece of the T goes into this line here, straight into the solenoid. But what I've done is I've put a Y adapter on there, so we can actually measure the vacuum that the solenoid is able to make at idle, and we can compare the two. So basically, from the factory, you have these canisters that store excess vacuum, and then they go from here. So you got boost from the motor feeding to the bottom of the canister. It stores excess vacuum, runs along. You can follow this, and it goes to the other side. The input to the solenoid is the one to the left, and then the output of the solenoid goes to your actual turbo. It takes an ECU signal, pulse width modulates it to actually take vacuum from here and target a particular boost pressure. So that way, even when you're in boost and you're making excess pressure and you're not in vacuum, you can use the excess vacuum from here to still target boost more efficiently. At least that's the idea. You can kind of get away with not using these. A lot of cars didn't have that level of accuracy, but it's better to have this vacuum chamber and stored vacuum to control boost. That way you can play with the wastegate even when you're under boost. So we've teed off here. Normally input to the actual and actually this tees off to the other solenoid, but for now we've teed in to the boost solenoid, and we're going to monitor boost pressure on the actual gauge now, or sorry, vacuum on the actual gauge now. I think it's going to target 15. Let's take a look. So there you can see it's at around 11. This is whatever, this is stock, I guess. Or I have MHD stage 2 plus, and this is what it's targeting, 10. Let the idle settle out and we'll see where we end up. It's dropping to 9. Okay. As soon as it finished its warm-up procedure and opened up the exhaust valve at the rear of the car, it's allowing more vacuum now. It's targeting, I'd say, 12-ish, 11 and a half to 12. So I'll let the car run for a bit, and I'll let you know if this changes in any way. And we'll check the other solenoid to see how that's looking. And you know, when these things fail, they don't fail abruptly. They kind of just start to degrade. I don't know if this is normal, if the other one's going to be the same. From what I've seen, saw another video where it should have been more like 15 if it was perfect. But let's see. And from what I've also seen, the rear one tends to fail before the front one because of exposure to heat, I guess. It's closer to the turbos, I don't know. Or it's just more in an open area where heat can get to it. But I think that's, car's already warm anyway for the most part, so I think it's not going to exceed 12. So let's shut it off now. And this nipple That's my little T adapter. And we're going to put this straight back into here now. Like that. That's back to stock. Now I'm going to set up on the other actual solenoid. Now these vacuum nipples are hard to remove. So you want to put a pick tool and get around the edge. Just to break the seal. In case you guys are wondering, I have this adapter to go from the larger hose to the smaller. Comes with the actual kit. There we go. We're simply teed in again. Taking the boost pressure, intercepting it to our gauge. So there's a good shot of the actual gauge now connected to the front solenoid. So let's start the car. Very similar at around 10 as it's doing the warm-up procedure. We'll let the idle settle out, let the exhaust valves open up, and let's see what it changes to. I guess it's going to shoot for 12s again. It's about to flip over, you can hear the engine settling out. Very similar behavior to the rear one. So I'm going to have to assume that these are operating normally. But since I have the part and I don't plan on returning it, and it's almost like maintenance, I'm going to change the rear solenoid. And let's see if there's any difference with a fresh solenoid versus what I'm getting here. Since they're both doing the same thing, I may want to maybe consider replacing the other one too if I get more vacuum on the new one at the back. Even though this is enough for things to work. But you know, it's a good video for you guys to see. These solenoids, as far as I know, have 180,000 miles on them, so it's not going to pass 12 and a half from the looks of it at idle. So I'm going to restore that back to stock, and then I'll come back when I'm changing out the rear solenoid. Now changing out the rear solenoid is not too difficult. What we got to do is take this line off. I already kind of pulled it off. It came off easy enough, but you'll hear vacuum leaking because it's emptying out the canister. And since we've already released this, it should come off easy. And you can unclip this just to get things out of your way. And ultimately there's this connector here. You just push on the side of it and it comes off just like a fuel injector. You push here and then there's two 10 mils. Got that top nut removed. I'm going to throw a cloth down there just in case I drop the bolt. That way it'll just fall onto the cloth. Alright, I was able to not drop the nut. So this is an OEM quality solenoid, but there's a difference. Here's the original solenoid. There's, you can see this is a vent, I believe. Overall, they look a little different. So there's a good chance that this is original. I gotta move this hose onto here and then we'll reinstall. Now we'll insert that back onto the new valve. Alright, we're zoomed in on the vacuum gauge with the new solenoid installed. Let's see if there's any difference. The reading higher. Settling out. Okay, so originally it read a bit higher, but then it went back close to 10. So I guess it's behaving very similar. If anything, maybe it's just slightly more stable, I don't know, but it should probably just get to around the 12.5 mark. Yeah. It's just slightly higher, like half a PSI. But, nothing to... So I wouldn't think there's anything wrong with my stock ones. They're still doing their job. It's not like it's targeting 15 PSI. So anyway, I guess... I'm not running JB4 or anything that modifies the actual vacuum that these solenoids see. I'm just running a stockish tune, but it's based off MHD Stage 2 Plus. It's not a stock tune, but it's not doing anything out of the ordinary in terms of target vacuum for the solenoids. I believe that's what it would be like stock. I've seen JB4, you can aim for 15, you can even have it go to 25, I guess. For some people that are encountering issues with their wastegates, more vacuum will help you out. But this video basically shows you what normal solenoids will look like when they're performing properly via like a vacuum gauge. There's no good way to test it really unless you put a vacuum gauge on the car. But I would say look for similar results. That's a brand new valve, which I'll leave in there because you know what, these things do eventually fail, and I've already bought the part, trying to chase down a hesitation issue. But all's well, and that's what you can expect new or even after a lot of miles on your OEM solenoids. So thanks for watching and good luck.
Wow.